Hi again. I have been thinking today about the subject of soul loss and soul retrieval. Anybody who works in neo-shamanic circles might recognise the term soul loss and the term soul retrieval. Excuse me. It usually takes place, soul loss, when something unfortunate has happened to you, something that like a sickness or grief through losing somebody, a death, losing an object that you might be fond of, like your house, or being thrown into chaos over something, fights, quarrels with people you love, all sorts of things can take us into a phase that we might describe as soul loss, purely because it's really a case of being suddenly, through a shock or a trauma, being thrown into a state of disharmony. Well, the general idea with soul loss, the general course of action, is to think about soul retrieval. And soul retrieval is something that needs to be looked at, I think, fairly carefully. The main reason I'm talking about this is because something of this relates to me. I had a car accident at the end of 2018. Some of you may know about this because I have discussed it with various social media places. And although I wasn't hurt from the car accident physically, it still affected me quite a bit psychologically. All the things I was doing a lot of workshops up and down the country, and I was forced to change course in many ways because I used to drive to these places in my beautiful car. And by the way, the accident wasn't my fault. Someone else carelessly drove into me, so this is just unfortunate, really. But I used to use the car quite a bit, and I couldn't get to the workshops anymore, and it made me review the situation. And I started to think, well, I've always lately gone out to other people, so perhaps they could start coming to me. Anyway, cut a long story short, I had quite a few thoughts about this, and the general idea behind soul loss will be for someone to say to me, oh, you've had an accident, you're devastated, because I was pretty devastated. I just wanted to cut off from everything at the time and just let the world go hang. I just wasn't interested anymore for quite a while. But some people would say, oh, well, you've lost something of your soul, so why don't we see about bringing that part back again? Okay, so in which case you would call it soul retrieval. So the idea in neo-shamanism, I'm saying neo-shamanism because it can be a little bit different from what the originals used to do because of the subject we're talking about, me, and what I experienced. The healer would go and rescue my chunk of soul that's missing and return it to me. Now, what got me thinking about these ideas of soul loss and soul retrieval in our modern times is the fact that if somebody had done that for me and said, okay, you've lost your car, you feel awful, let's get you back moving again, let's get you back doing what you were doing before the accident happened, I would have had to have said, wait. And that is because I had so many thoughts during that time, during the post-accident, so many thoughts about what I was doing and how I felt about what I was doing. So the question is, would I want that part of me returned, or is it a case of my losing a part courtesy of the trauma of the accident, which I don't actually need? Because what it did was it got me to review a lot of things about myself and my relationship with my work. And I started to think I've got to speak more openly about things that are going on. Sometimes, I don't know, it gets a little bit wishy-washy, and I don't do this. Because naturally I don't want to offend people, but I'm not out to offend people. I'm just out to talk about things the way they are. So yeah, I'm cutting a long story short again, but basically I went through a great deal of soul searching and came to the conclusion that I can actually go a lot further with what I'm saying. What I noticed once I started to come back home to myself was the fact that there was more courage, more compassion for the people who have been duped by a lot of what goes on in the world in the New Age circles. I suppose there's a part of me that didn't really care anymore about the artificial way we sometimes relate to spirituality. I thought, if I can talk about it the way I feel it to be and the way I've learnt it through people that have helped me in the past, that courtesy my oral culture, what I've come from, my roots, I've grown up with this, so why not talk more openly about this rather than less? So yeah, the point is it always necessary to think you should restore someone to what they were before they had their trauma, accident, illness, grief, loss, death, whatever? Or is there something within that traumatic experience that can help a person to get on in their life, to find something in themselves that perhaps was being a little bit repressed? Perhaps that part wasn't being used, and perhaps prior to the trauma they experienced, that was pressing down the thing that needed to be released. Yeah, I hope you can understand what I'm talking about here, and if you can't, you can always contact me and we can have a talk about it. But it's necessary, I suppose, to think that when we think we are healing people, we might not be. What we've got to do is to look at what is going on inside people, what is actually being pushed down. So much education needs to happen in this, and the New Age industry isn't helping, because what it tends to do is cloak. It's a great cloaking device, as they would say in Star Trek. It cloaks all the things that we need to help to rise up to the surface and release. We don't have to dwell on things that we find painful or ugly or disturbing. We don't have to do that. But sometimes we have to work through a pain in order for it to fly away and leave us alone. And then, underneath that, there could be something quite remarkable there, something that helps us to get on in life, to be more open with ourselves, to be more truthful with ourselves. So we really need to understand what trauma is about. This experience I had has really helped me to ask many, many questions, and if there's anything I can work with in healing at all, it's help with trauma. Because most of us, I'd go as far as to say most of us are suffering from some sort of trauma. We always are when we're living in a world that's as crazy and mixed up as the way this one is, the way our society is, the rules we have to follow in terms of not expressing ourselves as we feel ourselves to be. We all have to crouch and hide behind so much dross. There's so much that we have to act out every day, and we don't always feel like doing it. So yeah, letting something go and I've always been a strong advocate of doing that, letting things go, let them fly away, because they're serving to repress you. And anytime you have something happen to you, like a crisis, like a trauma, remember that it's trying to release something from you and help you to see things slightly differently, maybe. So it may not be the right idea to stuff something back that life has helped to eradicate. Life has helped you to let that thing go. So give this some thought, and do talk to me about it if you wish to. It's a big subject, and I'll be talking about this in workshops, more videos, and come along to the workshops, any workshops I hold. I don't hold them all the time, but when I do, you'll find that they might answer some questions. And remember, there's always more questions than answers, and there should be. That's what life's about. Okay, right. Thanks for listening then, and I'll talk to you again soon.